It's KC101. Good morning. It's Saturday. It's time for another edition of Saturday with Seniors, brought to you by FCCB's local offices in Wellsboro, Mansfield, and Blossburg, serving our community for 150 years. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. And joining us today, John Eaton from Wellsboro. And hello, John.
Hi, how are you doing?
I am great. Thanks for taking the time to come visit us here.
Glad to be here.
Now, how old are you, John?
Jeepers.
Oh boy, the questions are going to get tougher.
They sure are, aren't they? I'm 79.
79. And where were you born?
Actually in Williamsport, but our family was from here.
From this area here. So what did your parents do for work when you were first born?
My father was a dentist here. Actually, I come from a long line of dentists. My grandfather was a dentist. My father was a dentist, and I became a dentist. My mother was a nurse and homemaker.
Mm-hmm. So you've come from a family who's taken care of people, served people along the way as a dentist.
Yes.
Your dad tell you any neat stories when in his early days of dentistry? Because I got to imagine your dad must have been a dentist back in 1900.
Well, no. My father graduated from Temple Dental School, and my grandfather graduated from Temple Dental School, and I graduated from Temple Dental School. My father practiced with his father here in town. They had an office up in Dunham's building, which is on the second floor up above what's now the card shop in that area. His office was on the second floor there, faced Main Street. And he was drafted in World War II and served in the Army as a dentist at Fort Jackson, South Carolina. I was born in 1943 in Williamsport, actually. And then my mother went down to join my father at Fort Jackson with me as a little baby. And then after the war, we came back to Wellsboro.
Wow. So interesting that 3 generations, same school all the way through. So let's go back to your early days then. So you were born in Williamsport, raised in the Wellsboro area.
Right.
Tell me about some of your earliest memories. Do you remember the first day of school?
Yeah. Well, actually, I remember before that.
All right, well, let's talk about before that. Let's go back as far as you remember.
Back then, they didn't have kindergartens in the schools or whatever it was, and there was a Catholic nunnery up here on Central Avenue. That's where the parking lot for the hospital is, on Central Avenue, and I went there for kindergarten and stuff, and so that's really my early memories. The nuns were very strict. And if we misbehaved, they liked to rap us with a ruler on the knuckles.
I heard about that, but that actually happened, huh?
Yeah, that actually happened.
And were they dressed in the full nun garb outfit and everything?
Yes. And they also taught music lessons and stuff like that, piano lessons, and they tried to teach me, but I'm not a good musician. Yeah, so I never got anywhere with it. And then from there I went to what was the elementary school.
Don Gill?
No, it was way before that. It was corner of Grant and Walnut, where the manor is today.
Yeah,
that was the
Park Hill Manor is today.
Yeah.
I'd heard there was a school there, and I've seen some old pictures of it.
And I went to school there for, I guess, 6th grade, and then went up to the middle school up on
the other side
Highland
of Main Street.
Highland Street.
Yep, you know the street names a lot better than I do. The one that's over there. So what did you want to be when you were a kid? What were you thinking your career?
I really had no idea, to tell you the truth, until I actually got into college. I've been exposed to dentistry, but my father died when I was extremely young. I was 10 years old, so after that I really wasn't exposed to dentistry that much. And I enjoyed mathematics, really, and stuff like physics and stuff like that. And I thought of going into engineering, and then about my junior year in college, I decided, well, I'm going to go to dental school. So,
and you went.
And I went. And since everybody gone to Temple, that's where I went.
Well, I guess it was a good choice. Would you agree? Work seemed...
Yes. I got a good education. And after my time in the Army, I came back to Wellsboro here and practiced with Dr. Tom Bailey and Dr. Kiewit.
So going back to school time, were you into school sports or any of that?
I ran track and field, and that was it.
Were you a fan of sports? Did you enjoy baseball or football or watching
football
professional?
And baseball. We played sandlot football as kids and baseball. And
Did you have any favorite baseball players that you looked up to or admired?
I always liked the Brooklyn Dodgers when they were in Brooklyn.
You sound like my dad. He grew up in Brooklyn, too. Still talks about the Brooklyn Dodgers.
But I was really not fanatical about any one team.
Yeah. What did you enjoy doing during your free time here in Wellsboro? We're going back when you were a kid in the 1950s. Did you go to the Arcadia? What were some of your memories of town in that time period?
Well, back then, we didn't have a lot of this electronic equipment stuff. We had to kind of entertain ourselves. We played cowboys and Indians and stuff like that as a kid. We did go to the Arcadia. I wasn't allowed to go a lot, but on Saturday, if it was for a matinee, if it was a movie that was fit for us, I was allowed to go.
Do you have other memories about town? What was Wellsboro like? How do you remember Wellsboro in your mind from 50 years ago?
Wellsboro has changed a lot in the past 50 years. Main Street especially. There was a lot of little mom and pop type stores that sold bread and sundays and stuff like that. Dunham's department store, where the card shop now was a small grocery store, and they made donuts. They had a donut making machine that sat out in the front so you could stand in the window and watch them make these donuts.
That's neat.
We'd go in there and you'd see these donuts floating down in the oil on a
river of oil, yes.
Yeah, on a belt, and then they go out. And back, they were really sinkers. I mean, by that, boy, they were heavy. They weren't like a donut today you get,
Filled with air. These are the real donuts.
Yeah. and then there were Fouts Sporting Goods stores where the bicycle shop is now. More restaurants, T&J restaurant.
That's a new name to me. I've heard a lot of names of old restaurants, but T&J's the first one to me. Do you remember the Lamplighter?
Yes, I remember the Lamplighter.
And the great fire in the early 70s at the Lamplighter there.
Yeah, I was here. I'd come back in 71, so I was here for that, and also here for the Western Auto fire.
Where was Western Auto?
Western Auto was in the area next to Garrison's.
Okay.
In fact, I got my first bicycle from them. And then there was another store up there where Dunham's parking lot up in that area called McInerney Owens Electronics. And the kids enjoyed it as they sold Lionel trains.
When you say electronics, we think of nowadays something like computer chips and everything else. But electronics then, obviously, there wasn't computer
radios,
chips. Television sets?
Yeah, old-time television sets, appliances, stuff like that. And plus, they sold Lionel electric trains. They had them set up in the window. We used to go in there and watch the trains run around and stuff.
Yeah.
They were two grocery stores here. The MP was over on
Water Street,
where now is
the medical facilities there now.
Medical facility, and there was a Acme down where
Milo or Tops
is now. Plus, there were some small little stores on Main Street that sold bread and sundries and stuff, and a couple nice meat markets too.
So it really has changed a lot.
It has.
It's evolved over time, I guess I'd say. There wasn't any one day things changed and wake up one day it was different. It just always kept changing.
Yeah, it changed slow, but for a while, and then sped up.
How many Laurel Festivals have you been to? I see you have your Laurel Festival shirt on. I'm guessing you've been to more than 10.
Well, as a kid, we went to a lot of Laurel Festivals. The Laurel Festival was entirely different back when I was a kid. They might have had 50, 60 queens, and they had the coronation on the green. They set up a stage there for the coronation. It was Saturday night outdoors. Farman had a carnival that was set up on Central Avenue in that block between Pearl and Main.
I heard it was quite a festival with everything all right together right there with the carnival.
Yeah, the parade route was up Main Street, up to King Street, turned around, went down the other side of Main, and then disbanded down there by...
So actually did a U-turn on Main Street, came down each
side of Main Street. As kids, I could go up and sit in the window of my father's office above Dunham's and watch the parade. So that's where we watched it most of the time.
You remember huge crowds for the parades back then? I look at all the old pictures of parades in every town, and it just seemed like there was rows and rows and rows of people. Although it's still very busy now to this day.
Yeah, there were. I think it was more local in the surrounding area than it is now.
Yep.
And as a senior in high school and stuff, if some of the queens did not have an escort, some of the guys, including myself, were
ready to help.
Escorts for the girls. So it was entirely different. But
Sure. But it sounds like it was a great time. Still is to this day. So let's talk about your military background a little bit. You mentioned you were in the Army, did you say?
Yeah.
Is that the branch of service?
Back then it was Vietnam, and they were drafting. And so in order to not be drafted, in order to finish my dental school and stuff, I took a commission as a reserve officer, and that allowed me to finish dental school. And immediately on graduation of dental school in 1969, then I immediately went into the Army and went to Fort Sam Houston in Texas, and then to Fort Campbell in Kentucky for my service there. I never went overseas.
So you're fortunate to be able to stay safe here in the United States during those times.
About 50% of each class went overseas, somewhere Korea or Vietnam.
Did you have any friends that you lost in the Vietnam War?
Not in the dental group or anything like that. As far as infantry and things like that.
Sure.
Wounded and...
Yeah. So your wife, Diane, how long ago did you meet her? How'd you meet her? Where'd you meet her? Let's hear the story on this.
You really want to hear that?
I do.
After graduation from high school up here, I went to Franklin Marshall College in Lancaster. And kind of not settling down, I did too much partying down there. And mid-semester of my sophomore year, I was given a choice of either getting out of the pre-dental type courses or being evicted from the college.
Okay. I was in a similar situation. My grade point average after my freshman year in engineering school was really low, and it was either,
So it was quite low. So I really didn't want to give up my science courses and that curriculum. So on the way home for Christmas break, I stopped in at Lycoming College and asked if I could transfer to there. And they said, well, yeah, if you can be here by following Monday, because that's when our class is. I said, no problem. And so I started there, and that's where I met Diane at Lycoming College.
She was a student there at the college?
She was a student there. She was a freshman when I was a sophomore there.
And then you got married how many years later?
We got married in she's going to kill me if I get this wrong. I graduated from high school in 61. I graduated from Lycoming in 65. She would graduate in Lycoming in 66. I went to dental school, and we were going together at that time, but we did not get married until my second year. I completed my second year of dental school. Most people that did not succeed in dental and medical school in the first 2 years, they left in the first 2 years. But if you got through the first 2 years, you were considered, okay, you're going to make it.
She wanted to make sure you're going to make it as a dentist first before she married you.
Yeah, right. We got married in 67, and I graduated from dental school in 69. Spent a little over 2 years in the military and came back here.
So then you retired from being a dentist. At what point did you retire?
I retired about 7 years ago.
And Diane, what did she do? Take care of the house, or was she...
No, she worked.
Yeah.
She's worked ever since she's been out of college. When we came back here, she volunteered with Women's Auxiliary, which was Soldiers and Sailors Hospital back then. And her major was English and writing. And she started to work for the Wellsboro Gazette, which was owned by Don Friday. And she was just doing, small in and about town, something like that. And then Don hired her to be editor of the newspaper, and she did that for quite a few years. And
she's still doing some writing to this day.
Well, after she quit the newspaper, she went up to the hospital to work in the public relations department for a while. And then after that, she went back and worked as a reporter to newspaper. And now she does public relations for nonprofits and stuff, because she just enjoys doing it.
She wants to help the community out, which is a great thing. So today's world versus the world you grew up in, who do you think had it better? You as a kid growing up in that time period, or now? What's your thoughts? Because it is two totally different worlds.
Yes, it
Kids
is.
today with cell phones and computer screens everywhere and all that.
Right. Yes, it is two different worlds. We didn't have television back then. We didn't have computers. We didn't have smartphones. And back then in school, somebody's going to hate me for saying this, okay? But we had to think things through. Like in math, for example, we didn't have a computer to do our math on. We had to do it.
Had to discover your own answer. Yes.
Memorize the mathematical tables and all the trigonometry tables. And nowadays, if a kid wants to do math, he does it on a smartphone or something like that. I think that's bad because back then we had to start at the basics and divide the answer. Now you can go right to the answer by...
Yeah, you don't know how you got it. You don't understand the answer. I've seen situations where a cash register doesn't work right, and there's a younger person who can't figure out how to make the change because they haven't done it.
Make the change right. When I worked at the AMP, I had to count change at the cashier's station. And, that had to add up the total of what was...
Counting it back to the customer, which...
And everything had a label in it, so you had to put the amount in. Now they have barcodes, and they just scan it. And if somebody gives them a $10 bill, they put that in, and it gives them the amount of change. And back then, we had to mathematically, in our mind, figure out the amount of change. So I think in that sense... we were better off because we had to start from A to get to B to get to C.
Because you're required to think you did.
Right. I can't fault all the electronics and all that stuff that we have today because of what it has given us as a society, but I think it can be misused more.
Yeah, it can create a lot of problems and a lot of anger in this world, it seems like, and information is passed around so fast.
Right.
I mean, do you remember when Kennedy was shot, I assume?
Yes, I can remember
it took half a day for 90% of the country to know, whereas now with Facebook, if a president was, God forbid, shot, the whole country would know probably under 2 minutes.
That's true.
It's just amazing how fast, stuff passes around.
It's an instant gratification society now.
Yep. Use a credit card to pay for things that you'll have the money for tomorrow to enjoy today kind of thing.
Right. Today you buy things online and stuff. We had to go to stores. So now somebody wants something right now. I might have had to wait 2 or 3 weeks if
You had to. I'm sure you got an allowance as a kid, or you had chores that you had to work for. So, I mean, you felt like you earned what you were given.
Well, yeah.
Or what you earned what you earned. I mean, I shouldn't say we're given.
My sister and I had certain chores we had to do. She had to help mother with chores. I had to do outside chores, mow lawn, haul ashes out of the furnace, put ashes on the driveway in the winter, things like that. And kids today do that, too. I'm not saying that they...
Some do, yeah.
They don't.
I don't know if it's quite as standard as it used to be. But.
And if I wanted something, I had to work for it. And that's good, because it made you appreciate what you had.
You take care of things if you have to work to earn them, to have them. So, well, John, I appreciate you taking the time to visit us. Hard to believe, but our time has zipped right by. Anything else you'd like to share?
No, I think that we've covered it.
Okay, certainly can't cover everything in 20 minutes of your life, but there's...
No, I've enjoyed it.
Well, thank you. I've enjoyed learning about your life and some of the other life around here from you. This has been Saturday with Seniors. Big thank you to our sponsor, FCCB, First Citizens Community Bank, serving our community for over 150 years. Our local branch is sponsoring today's show in Wellsboro, Mansfield, and Blossburg. And if you missed this show or any of the shows, you can catch them online in our YouTube channel, which is easiest to get through our website, KC101FM.